Hi everyone, today's quick fix is all about a little tip on mixing primary colours. So the first thing I'm doing is getting a little mixing sheet set up with my compass, doing it rather cack-handedly. Here we go, just finishing off that circle. So what I've got here is rows of different circles, which I really like when I'm looking at two colours mixing together and how I can get the different sort of tones depending on how much of one colour I have with another. So for my primary blue, I'm using Cobalt Blue Deep, and then I've got Cadmium Red and Cadmium Yellow. So I'm going to begin by picking Cadmium Yellow, and I am going to pop it in this circle here, nice and sort of concentrated, fairly vibrant colour, just using a size 4 brush. And that is my yellow, and I want to see what range of tones I can get from mixing two colours. But how do I do it? So what I like to do is getting my yellow, because it is the lighter of the three colours. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some cadmium red also up in the palette next to it in the open wells. And I am just going to slowly introduce a tiny bit of cadmium red in there, but only a very little bit. And that is what I'm going to put in here. So my main colour is yellow, but you can already see the impact that cadmium red has on it. And these circles are just really handy ways of keeping your mixing neat. Okay, so we've got a lovely sort of orangey tone. Let's introduce a bit more cadmium red into the mix. And then here you can see what's going to happen is we're going to end up with a nice chart of colours going gradually from one side to another, which is just going to be really helpful for you if you have a limited palette, or if you only have so limited that you've just got the primary colours. Having a little chart like this, either in your palette or in your painting kit, it's just a really handy way of doing a quick reference for all the colours you can get without having to buy them. So I'm introducing more red into the mix now. And just filling in my circles. So the circles, I just drew them all in pencil and rubbed them out faintly so they weren't too strong, just with an HB pencil. If you don't have a compass, you could always draw around a coin. And lastly, when the red is really dominant in the mix, but we want there to still be some yellow there. And there we go. You end up with a lovely kind of warm terracotta red colour. Now, obviously, red to yellow, we've got oranges, which are not primary colours, but essentially we've got a sort of range of terracottas, almost like a sort of ochre colour in there, which is really nice. So all your warm tones are taken care of there. Now, what if we try yellow with blue? So we'll start again with yellow in our circle, just so we're reminded of what colour we've begun with. Now I'm going to change my water. So I've got a nice bit of clean water here to get my blues involved. So I'm going to bring my yellow down over here to mix in with my blue. So I've got one jar of water just off camera for my yellow, and then I've got a nice clean one here for my blue. Okay, so this is going to be quite a strong, impactful colour, so I just want a little bit coming in here. And that's really interesting because I don't think people know that blue and yellow make green, but I don't think everyone thinks about the range of tone that you can get. And that's why it's really handy to have these little colour charts to remind you, because that still looks like a seriously warm kind of colour. So let's get a little bit more of our cobalt blue in there. And again, I find that quite surprising that it's quite a sort of khaki green. Now, the great thing of watercolour is there are so many different variances of red, yellow and blue. So of course, the more you experiment, the more you'll find the range of colours you want, which means then you could set yourself up with the ultimate red, yellow and blue of your choice and be able to create the exact kind of colours you wanted. So it's taken actually quite a bit of blue to get us to a more sort of zesty green that resembles more of a sap green. There we go. And last, let's get a load of blue in there. See what happens. Oh wow, that's really cool. Okay, last but not least, red and blue together. So I'm going to begin with red. Cadmium red and cadmium yellow. The word cadmium implies that the paint is actually quite an opaque paint from what it's made up of. So we're getting some really lovely strong colours here on the page, which is really helpful for this exercise. Right, so if we're going to get blue and red together, let's get a new well here. And I'll pick my blue from up here where the yellow's not got too involved. So when you're doing mixes like this that would really sort of mess up your wells, a bit like I've done there, really make sure, get it in your open palette there, and that will prevent you from having too much of a messy palette. Okay, let's get them going. Oh, okay, just a little bit of integration there, and that makes a lovely burgundy already. In my Watercolour for Beginners playlist, I also have 2 tutorials all about colour mixing, some popular colours that are often not found in a regular palette, and also a sort of a large colour chart to look at colour mixing your full palette if you're really into trying out more of this. Because I'm keen to encourage people to not have to buy the whole set of colours, the whole spectrum of colours, because one of the joys of watercolour is, I think, the discovery you make when you're doing your mixes. And it makes your paintings look like yours and not like anybody else's, because you've mixed those colours yourself. Okay, let's get a bit more of that blue in there and really start to mix these two together. Now, red and blue, when really concentrated and when I'm expecting the last circle to be, is often a colour mix I use instead of black when I'm painting flowers, like the centre of an anemone, or just whenever you have something that appears like it might be black in a flower, quite often is a very, very, very deep, dark, bluey, purpley red colour. And I mix that by using cadmium red and Prussian blue. We're using Cobalt blue deep here today because it's more of a primary blue. But mixing those two together completely fully, you can see this amazing deep dark plum colour that you can get. So I hope this little Watercolour Quick Fix has been a helpful guide, both with how to set up a page to do some quick mixes to have as a handy reference, but also giving you a useful little reminder of all the colours that you can get from mixing red, yellow and blue, your primary colours. I can't wait to see all the various shades that you come up with, but that is your 5-minute quick fix.